There is a photograph on a table in Jerusalem, spring of 2017. It shows a man in his mid-30s, dark hair, a flat expression, the kind of face you find on a company identification badge and immediately forget. Next to the photograph, a researcher lays down 5 index cards. Each card has a different first name printed on it. Her instructions are simple. Match the name to the face. She has never met this man. She has no other information. She looks at the photograph for 12 seconds, then picks up the card that reads Dan. The man's name is Dan. This should be coincidence. With 5 names on the table, chance alone gives you 20% accuracy. But across the full study, 6 experiments run by Yonat Zwebner and her colleagues at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, participants matched names to faces correctly between 25 and 38% of the time. Not a staggering number in isolation, but in statistics, the gap between 20% and 38% is not noise. That gap is a shape. The effect survived replication in France, with French names and French faces. Researchers controlled for ethnic correlations, age markers, perceived socio-economic signals. The effect persisted. In a later phase of the study, a computer algorithm was trained on the same photographs and names. It matched at 43% accuracy. The researchers described the finding as remarkable. They were being conservative. Most accounts of this study treat the matching result as the point. It is not. It is a door. The point is what the study implies about the door's hinges, about the mechanism that would have to exist for such a thing to be possible at all. That mechanism is stranger and more personal, and harder to walk away from than the headline suggests. Your name is a sound. 2 syllables on average, though the number varies. It was chosen, typically sometime around the 22nd week of a pregnancy you were not yet aware of, by someone who had never met you, acting on a combination of family tradition, aesthetic preference, and incomplete information about the person you would become. You had no vote. The sound was transcribed onto a birth certificate, spoken by a nurse within hours of your first breath, and has been landing in your ears roughly 2,000 to 4,000 times per year for every year of your life. Here is what the research says happened next. The field of phonosemantics has been assembling its case since 1929, when a German psychologist named Wolfgang Köhler placed 2 shapes before participants, one jagged and angular, one soft and curved, alongside 2 nonsense words, Takete and Maluma. The result was not ambiguous. 95% of people across cultures and languages that had never shared vocabulary with one another matched Takete to the jagged shape. Hard consonants, stop sounds, short high vowels map onto sharpness and force. Lateral consonants, nasals, open low vowels map onto softness and warmth. This has since been replicated in speakers of Swahili, Mandarin, Korean, Hindi, and more than a dozen others. It is not vocabulary. It is not learned association. It appears to be a feature of human auditory processing that precedes language entirely, something built into the structure of how we hear. Your name sits somewhere on that spectrum. Victor and Leo occupy different positions on it. Harriet lands on a stranger's nervous system differently than Molly. Before anyone in your life has seen your face, heard your laugh, Or notice the particular way you go quiet when someone says something you find dishonest. They have heard your name. Their nervous system has produced a response. Not a decision, not a verdict, but a small involuntary temperature reading. A flicker of expectation, formed from sound alone. This happens to teachers. It happens to employers reading application forms. It happens to the person at a party who heard your name called across the room before you turned around. It happens to the professor grading a stack of papers with names at the top, 30 essays deep into a Tuesday evening. Now multiply that flicker. Multiply it across every classroom, every job application, every introduction at a conference, every doctor who called your name in a waiting room before knowing anything about the body attached to it. Multiply it across 30 years, 40. And then consider what Zwebner's team proposed as the mechanism behind their finding. They called it the Dorian Gray effect. In Wilde's novel, a portrait ages while the man it depicts stays young. Here, the causality reverses. The portrait, the neural sketch assembled from the sound of your name, arrives first. Then the person follows. A teacher with 24 students does not sit down and consciously decide to hold different expectations for Max and Sebastian. Phonosemantic expectation is not a conscious process. It is the temperature reading, the faint prior that shapes tone and body language before intention even forms. Decades of classroom observation research show that name-based first impressions produce consistent small differences in how teachers direct questions, how long they wait before moving to another student, how their faces register errors. Each individual difference is too small to name, accumulated across years of teachers and coaches and parents' friends and HR managers who heard the name before they saw the face. They are not small. They are a social environment, and a face is, in part, a record of the social environment it has navigated. The muscles you activate most become the dominant lines of your face. A face that has received warmth as a default develops different structural patterns over decades than one that has received a more guarded first response. The name came first. The face, in some small but measurable fraction, followed. Not entirely, not by any single person's design, but enough that a computer, given only photographs and names, can find the pattern and beat chance by 23 percentage points. Pause here. We accept, without much friction, that genetics shaped your face, that early nutrition set your height, that the particular neighborhood where you were a child left grooves in your accent you will carry until you die. These feel comfortable because they feel impersonal. They feel like the weather, acting on you from outside. But your name feels like you. It is the first word you learn to trace in block letters on ruled paper. It is on every document that constitutes you in the eyes of the law and the world. It is, in some deep and specific way, yours. And yet it was assigned before you existed, for reasons that had nothing to do with your actual self, by someone who knew their own hopes for you, but had not yet met the particular person you were going to be. At its origin, it was purely a sound, an acoustic object, a sequence of phonemes that happened to be available in someone's memory at the right moment. And from the day it attached to you, it began a decades-long process of gently, persistently, invisibly collaborating in the construction of your face. Consider a woman named Bernadette Gertner, born in Munich in 1983, the third daughter of a librarian. Her older sisters were named Clara and Anna, short, bright, symmetrical names that shorten easily to first syllables. Her parents chose Bernadette, 3 syllables weighted toward the back, a name that does not invite casual truncation, a name with gravity, because it sounded to them like the name of a serious person. She grew up and became a conservator of historical documents. She works in a basement archive in Vienna, wearing white cotton gloves, repairing 16th century correspondence with wheat starch paste and Japanese tissue paper, her breath held slightly when she turns a page that has not been turned in 300 years. She would tell you she chose this life because she loves the patience of it, the intimacy of working with something irreplaceable. She is right. She is also, in some fraction she will never be able to isolate, a partial product of what the sound of her name led people to expect from her before she had done anything at all. This is not fatalism. The claim is not that your name is your destiny, or that people named Max cannot become conservators, or that character is a phonetic property. The claim is more specific and less comfortable than any of those. The claim is that your name has been an uninvited collaborator, present in every room before you arrived, shaping the temperature of every first impression you have ever made, influencing in aggregate the social feedback your face and body have received for your entire life, and in those responses, quietly constructing some fraction of the person you became. People change their names. Many do, for many reasons. Research on chosen names suggests the mechanism can run in reverse. A new sound gradually produces new expectations, and new expectations gradually alter the social feedback a person receives. But the original name had structural lead time, years of it. It built grooves. And grooves, unlike directions, take something more than decision to fill. The researcher in Jerusalem set down the last photograph at the end of her 7th month of data collection. The desk smelled faintly of the cardboard boxes in which the photographs had been shipped from their various institutions. She had run thousands of pairings. She had watched the algorithm outperform every human in the room. She sat for a moment with the completed data and considered what it would mean if this effect held everywhere. Every culture, every language, every stack of photographs of people who had never stood in the same room as one another. A sound, chosen by strangers before a person could consent to having preferences, leaving enough of a mark on a human face that a statistical model trained on those sounds could find a pattern in photographs. Not enough of a mark to make predictions certain, enough to make it better than chance. Her name is Yonat. She has, apparently, always been good at finding things that were there, but hidden.